Alright, let's do tangent and cotangent. And we're doing these guys next because they're slightly different than cosine and sine. Cosine and sine, tangent and cotangent, you just got to find their asymptotes. Once you find their asymptotes, everything else is in the bag. Okay, now a tangent function normally starts, or normally has an asymptote at pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. Before it gets to 2 pi, and this would be pi right here, asymptote right here, asymptote right here, and let's see, x-intercept there, between the asymptotes, x-intercept there, between the asymptotes, and x-intercept there. Okay, the other asymptote, which we don't see right here, we're not going to need for this graph, is negative pi over 2. We normally use negative pi over 2 and pi over 2 just because those are around the 0, around the origin. But since these graphs only show us pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2, I'm just going to use those ones for our intercepts for the tangent function instead. Okay, the normal tangent function, what you do is once you find the asymptotes, the middle is always going to be the x-intercept, or the point at the midline. And then you're going to find these two x values on either side of the midpoint. It's not really the midpoint, the point in the middle, in between the two asymptotes. And this one would be positive 1, and this one would be negative 1. And then you have your graph. Oh, so pretty. Okay, this one has a 2 right here. And now what that does is it changes where these points end up. Instead of it being a 2, or I'm sorry, being a 1, it's going to be a 2. So we just change it to 2, or we can actually graph a different line. So we have a point there and a point here. So it goes to negative 2 and positive 2. Okay, so that's what the tangent function looks like. But like I said, you have to find the asymptotes. That's it. Find the asymptotes, and then everything else is in the bag. So period for tangent is usually pi. Since there's no b right here, it's just going to stay pi. The phase shift, there's no phase shift here. We'll put 0. There's no like parentheses around here with the pi over 2 or anything like that. No phase shift. The range, yeah, the range here, because tangent always points all down and up, it's always going to be negative infinity to positive infinity for every tangent and cotangent function. That's what the range is going to be. The y-intercepts and x-intercepts, I like talking about those when I have a graph, and so let's find the asymptotes. This is the point. This is the whole kit and caboodle. I don't know what that means. So pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. Those are normal x-intercepts. And what I'm going to do is I'll draw these little inequality signs because normally the x is between these two. Oh, you know what? Our asymptotes don't change here because there's no phase shift and there's no period. And so we're just going to keep these two as our asymptotes. So we just kind of have to transfer everything over here. So our first asymptote is at pi over 2. We put a little dotted line right there, and we go to the middle. That's going to be the x-intercept. And then this time, for these points right here that are these x values that are in between the midpoint and the asymptote, we're going to go up to 2 and down to negative 2. And we have our tangent line right there. This right over here is going to be our other x-intercept. I know because our period is pi, so our next x-intercept is going to be pi spaces over that way. And our other x-intercept is going to be pi spaces over that way. So we've got to graph those since it's in our window. And then we go up here to 2. There you have it. Alright, let's get to some shifting and some period changes. Alright, we got stuff happening for this one. Let's see, our period is going to be, pi divided by b, which is going to be 2. So our period is going to be pi over 2. Alright, our phase shift, well, we can't see it now because we have that b bothering us. So let's rewrite this. Let's rewrite this with the 2 taken out. So we have y equals, and then we take the 2 out. Wait, we've got to write the tangent. 2, we take that guy out, and we have x. And now we have this divided by 2. And remember, if we go this divided by 2, that's the same, let's see, this divided by 2. This is the same as multiplying it by 1/2, and so we have pi over 4, so we have plus pi over 4, which tells us what our phase shift is. Our phase shift is going to be left minus pi over 4. That's left. That's what minus means. And then after that, let's see, the range, the same. Remember I told you before, it's negative infinity to positive infinity. The y-intercept, oh, I think I forgot to fill it in last time. Oh well. The x-intercepts, we'll see after we graph. The asymptotes, that's why I want to do this one. Let's find our asymptotes. So we're going to take the normal asymptotes for tangent, which are 0, and no, I'm sorry, not 0, pi over 2, and 3 pi over 2. Well, they're not normal. You actually could take any two consecutive asymptotes to figure this out. Okay, so I throw in everything that's inside the tangent function. So 2x plus pi over 2. Subtract pi over 2 from everything. So I'm going to subtract pi over 2 from this one, and from this one. So pi over 2 minus pi over 2 is 0. Then I have 2x, and then I have pi. And then I divide everything by 2. Divide that by 2, divide that by 2, divide that by 2. When I divide all those by 2, I get 0, x, and pi over 2. So there's these two guys right here are your asymptotes. And so I'm going to go ahead and put my first asymptote right there. It doesn't always have to be 0. If you get something else, you can put something else there. And then pi over 2 right here. So these are my asymptotes, which means right here is my x-intercept. The x-intercept, let's see, that's the middle. So the middle of 0 and pi over 2 is going to be pi over 4. This x and this x are important. That's going to be pi over 8. And this is going to be, let's see, this would be pi over 2 pi over 8. It would be 3 pi over 8. Let's erase that right there. And normally, you would just go up one right here and down one right here, and you have your tangent graph. Okay, but I don't know if we're supposed to go up one. Let's see, do we have any period change? No, we don't. There's not even a negative right there, so there's nothing tricky. We just have to go up one right here and down one right here, and we have our graph. All right, let's graph this over here. So at the 0, we have an asymptote. At pi over 2, we have an asymptote. The middle is our x-intercept, and then that x and that x are in between the midline and the asymptotes, and so I go down one right here and up one right here, and I have my tangent curve. Now I just have to draw the successive, like every other asymptote here. The period tells us what it increases by each time, so it increases by pi over 2. So the next one's going to be at pi, the next one's going to be at 3 pi over 2, the next one's going to be at 2 pi. And I graph my x-intercepts, and let's see, I need my points here so I know what to go through. And let's see, bam. Oh, that one's not that good. That one's a little better. I gotta work on, there you go, that's nice and curvy. Alright, so now we have our x-intercepts, which are at, let's see, the first one's at pi over 4. The next one is right there, which is going to be, what is that? Let's see, oh, pi over 4 plus the period. So what's pi over 4 plus pi over 2? Let's just write that out. See, pi over 4, I add pi over 2, we get 4 right there, that's going to be a 2, so we have 3 pi over 2 is our next one. I'm sorry, 3 pi over 4, that's our next x-intercept. 3 pi over 4, dang, I have 2 more to write. So then I add pi over 4 again, that's going to be pi. No, wait. Gotta add another pi here. So plus 4 pi over 4, which is going to be 7 pi over 4. That's our next x-intercept, 7 pi over 4. And the last one right here, we're going to add pi again to this, and so we're going to add another 4 pi over 4. 4 pi over 4 is equal to pi. It just has a common denominator. So now I have 11 pi over 4. That's my last x-intercept, 11 pi over 4, and now your asymptotes. Our asymptotes are a lot cleaner. We can see those on our graph. So it's going to be at x equals, because it's a vertical line, 0, pi over 2, let's say pi, so it's 0, pi over 2, pi, and then we have 3 pi over 2, and then 2 pi. Y-intercept, don't have any, because that's where our asymptote is.